Hello. How is everyone today? I have got my beach hair going. I did a run on the beach this morning. Well, we're at where my boyfriend's parents live, which is really, really close to the sea. So every second day or so we go for a run on the beach and then swim afterwards, and tough life. Really tough life. Let me know how your day is going. And also, since we're talking about decisions today, I'd be curious to know, is there a decision that you're trying to make at the moment? Oh, Marie, hey. Is there a decision that you're trying to make at the moment? Is there something that's on your mind? Is there like two paths that you're thinking of going down and you don't know which one to go on? Tell me what you're struggling with in terms of decision making. Small or big, doesn't matter. Anything that's like, I'm undecided about this thing. And sometimes it's been like forever that we've had this thing in the back of our brains. Hey. So if you just joined live, let us know before we get started on any decisions that you are wanting to make. You don't have to give us all the details if you don't want to, but I just want to get a sense of what we're struggling with. And like I said, it can be big decisions, it can be small decisions. Sometimes it's as big as like, I want to do something else with my career, but I'm not sure. Sometimes it's as small as like, we're trying to decide where to go on holiday and we don't know where to go type thing. So let me know, and let me know how you guys are doing. So for those of you who don't know me, I am Sarah. I'm a health and career coach for clinicians. And this is part of the stuff that I really help people with, particularly clinicians, I think in two senses, right? There's the decision making because we are talking about career and career path. So a lot of clinicians are struggling to make certain decisions. Like I said, sometimes that's huge. That's like, I want to go on an entirely new career path, right? And I'm struggling to make the decision whether to, for example, leave my job or go and study something completely new. And sometimes it's, for example, clinician I was coaching the other day, there's a particular area of her career that she really wants to lean into, but she's kind of been holding back on that decision to go all in. And it's been kind of on her mind for a really long time. And she's always kind of living in that limbo of indecision. Jane says, following my career versus family care. I'm in my retirement years and turned 60 last year. Exactly. Okay, so you're trying to decide um, um, whether to follow your career or family care. Maybe you can clarify what you mean by family care, like as in at home with family, or is it a part of a direction in your career that you are thinking of? Awesome. Oh, yes. And then lost my train of thought there. So the other thing that often I'm helping clinicians with is the decision whether or not to have coaching in the first place or get some sort of support, whether that's with me or someone else, right? But the actual decision process itself is sometimes really hard, right? So guiding a clinician through the decision of whether or not to work with me is part of what I help clinicians with, which sometimes gets a bit meta, but I think it's really cool. Even when we are starting that journey, like we're already building that skill of like, how do I make decisions? And how do I go on in that process? Like, how do I navigate that process of making decisions? Hi, Via. Feel free to let us know if you are struggling with any particular decision, some decision that's been on your mind, whether that's big or small, and you're kind of stuck in that place. And often it's like a lot of mental and emotional load, right? When we feel that kind of stuckness and our brain is kind of going through the whole process over and over again. It's weighing up this option and that option and it's kind of going on these thought loops. It can be really exhausting. It can be really exhausting. So I recently did a career switch and quit my job. So that whole process in and of itself was really tough. But yeah, just learning a lot about decisions, and obviously there were a lot of decisions that came before that and leading up to that and during. So yeah, I'd love to know what your guys' decision struggles are as well. Okay, so we're gonna talk about two kind of main aspects of struggling to make a decision. The one is we're going to examine the thoughts and beliefs and assumptions that you have regarding the decision itself, the different options of the decision, what it means about you as a person. And then we're also going to look at this idea called emotional regression, which essentially means that you feel kind of younger than you are emotionally. So this is usually the category where people are saying something like, I wish someone else would just make the decision for me, or I wish someone else would just tell me what to do and like take this load off me, right? So let me know which one you resonate with, but we're going to go through each one a little bit more in detail. So let's just start about the decision itself, right? So if you're thinking about, I am trying to make a decision, what do you believe about decisions? What do you think about decisions? And if you want to keep the particular decision you have in your mind while you do this, it can be really helpful. But like, what do you believe about decisions? Like, this can be things like, one of these paths is the right one and one is the wrong one. And I need to know which one is which, right? Sometimes it's, one is going to lead me to a path of like happiness and success and thriving. And the other one is going to like, you know, I'm going to be living in a box. I'm going to be like so unhappy. Everything is going to fall apart, right? So everything that we believe about those things. Sorry, Jane saying, I have a 93-year-old dad, still alive and strong, but started the early signs of dementia. Okay. So care at home for family. Okay. Okay. That makes sense. Sure, I'm really sorry about that. That sounds like a lot of load on you. I can see why you're sort of having to make that decision. Hey, Sasha. Okay, cool. So essentially thoughts and beliefs about the decision itself, right? Like, how does one make a decision? Is it something that, you know, if I just research enough, I will know which one is the right one or the wrong one? Or if I, you know, let's say get people's opinions on things, I will be able to weigh up different things and I will be able to make the right decision. So just exploring a little bit, and you're welcome to put them in the comments. Tell me what thoughts come up when you just think about a decision or the decision, right? Like if someone had to say, what do you feel about the decision, right? Just examining like, what are your thoughts and beliefs about that? Then something like your thoughts and beliefs about the different options, right? So for example, let's say you are at a particular job and you're trying to decide whether to go to a different job, or you're trying to decide whether to go into a new career. I want you to look at what are the thoughts and beliefs that you have about these two options, right? This can be things like, this one suits me and this one doesn't, or this one is boring and this one's exciting, this one is freedom, this one means, you know, being stuck, or monotony, or whatever it is. Like, what do you think about the two different options? And you're also welcome to share them with us. Any thoughts that come up around like, what does it mean if you have to like imagine yourself going down one path? What are you imagining on that path? What are you thinking is going to happen? What do you think it's going to be like? And then taking the other path and like, what is that going to feel like? What is that going to look like? What is that going to mean for your life? Because then you really start to see like, what are you comparing with what, right? And often we can get a lot of insight into why this decision is quite hard. And just start examining like, what do we actually think about these things? And are those things true, right? Like, is it true that this this particular job, I have, you know, no freedom, but suddenly when I go to like, it's getting a bit dark, sorry. When I go to this new thing, I'm suddenly going to have all the freedom in the world. Sometimes we can think that we are going to be a completely new person. Like, I can't set boundaries in my current job. But, when I'm in this situation, I'm totally going to be able to set boundaries because of X, Y, Z. That'll be easier there. Where is it easier? Where is one harder? Where is one more boring? Where is one more exciting? Where does one give you more freedom or stability? Just examining what you actually believe about those options. Okay. And then thoughts and beliefs about yourself as well. So the way that you can think about it is like, what am I making this decision mean? And this can be things like, so for me, one of my big ones was, if I leave my job, that means that I am an unreliable person, right? Like someone's going to think, oh, she just kind of changes her mind on a whim and does something else, right? Which obviously was not true. But it's that kind of personal judgment, or like thinking it means something specific about you. Sometimes it's like, if I don't push through, even though this is hard, that means I'm not resilient, right? Maybe I'm lazy, or I'm a quitter, or, like me, unreliable. Anything that you feel like is almost an identity that you are not wanting to have, based on one of those decisions or the decision itself. And feel free to share those with us as well. Like, what are you worried that it's going to mean about you as a person? And Jane, you can let us know what specifically about these two options, like what are you believing about these two options? What do you think one is going to mean versus the other? What thoughts and beliefs come up when you think about these different things? And like I said, when you start doing this, you can start to get a sense of why this decision feels hard. I mean, think about, for example, right? If I believe that there is a right decision and a wrong decision. If I choose the right decision, my life will be amazing. And if I choose the wrong decision, my life is going to crash and burn. Like, of course, I'm going to have an issue making that decision, right? Of course, if that's what you believe about decisions, right? Versus like, I'm going to go and ahead with this particular option, and I'm going to see how that turns out, right? And then if that doesn't work, I'm going to make the next decision. I'm going to just follow the next decision that comes up in my path, because by taking action, right, by choosing a path and going for it and taking action, then we learn more about it. And then we're like, okay, I've got new information now, and I can go on the next step. That's another belief about decision making, right? That if I make this decision, I can never go back and like, or not maybe go back, but I can never make a different decision, right? Like I had this as well. I felt like if I was going to leave my job and make the decision to go on a different path, that was it. Like that was the one decision I get. And then I have to stick with that forever. So of course I was putting so much pressure on this one decision, right? Because I have to know now, like 10, 20 years down the line, what I'm going to want and be able to predict that, right? So just starting to look at those thoughts and beliefs, and it makes things a lot clearer. And then we can start to just examine those assumptions a little bit. We can start to think about, what if there is no right or wrong decision? There's a quote, I think it's by Ellen Langer, she's a psychologist, and it says, don't worry about making the right decision, make the decision right. So you essentially choosing an option and you putting yourself completely into that option, you are backing yourself, you are committing, and you are making that decision right for you, which is a really cool way to think about it. Hey, Candice. So thinking about all these different aspects of a decision and realize like why it's so hard for you to make that decision. And on the flip side of that, think about what you are benefiting from staying stuck in that indecision, right? If you think your life is going to fall apart with one decision, right, of course you're going to feel like it's safer to stay stuck in that indecision, right? So thinking about what am I scared of happening? What is actually helping me? What feels safer to not actually make a decision at all and to stay where I am, then actually pick one of these and go for it and commit to it. Like, what are you scared of feeling? What are you scared of happening? What are you scared is going to happen, right? So all of these kinds of things can just help us explore the decision. And then the second aspect is, like I was saying, about the idea of emotional regression, which is a really interesting concept. Let me just take this. And you can also share with us like what feels to you, and it might be a hard question to answer in the beginning, but what feels to you like the benefit? What do you get from staying where you are and actually not committing to one option or the other, or not making a decision? It can be a really interesting line of thought to just start exploring, because we don't really think about it like that. We just think about, oh, it's so horrible being like indecision and like being stuck here. But we forget like there's a reason why we are staying stuck in this indecision and not committing to one. Okay, so emotional regression is essentially when we feel like we are actually emotionally younger than our chronological age. So like I was saying, this is when you think, or when you feel like, please can someone just make the decision for me? Or please can someone just tell me what to do? You just want to kind of like outsource that decision, right? And that's kind of like this almost feeling like an emotional child or adolescent, where essentially you don't feel emotionally mature enough to make the decision yourself. So you almost want someone to be more adulty than you are, right? Like, I think there was some other like funny meme of like, I'm looking for an adultier adult, right? It's like that kind of feeling. I want someone who's more mature, more, emotionally wise or whatever, to just tell me what to do, to take this decision off my hands. Let me know if you relate to that, because I definitely do. Okay. So there are many different, I guess, signs, and emotional regression is not something that we either are or aren't. We can go in and out of emotional regression. We can go to different stages. We can go, like, sometimes we just feel really small and young, and sometimes we feel more like, a rebellious teenager or whatever it is. Like, there can be different levels of that. And you can kind of go in and out of this. A lot of people feel like when they go home to their families or when they're spending time with their families, that they then emotionally regress more than like other times. But sometimes it's like you at work and you feel like, mature and powerful and very adulty, and then you go home to your family, or, you are in a tug of war with your toddler and you suddenly feel like you do not have the emotional maturity of an adult. So we come and go out of this. It's not like you are or aren't that. But there are different signs of it. People pleasing is one of them. So any time where you feel like you're going to get into trouble or someone's going to be really angry with you, right? Like, if you think about it, if you are an adult, you don't worry about getting into trouble. That doesn't exist as an adult, right? So it's just interesting to notice this. So indecisiveness, wishing that other people would make choices for you. Emotional adults, we get feedback, we weigh options, but ultimately we feel like I feel empowered to make my own decisions. That doesn't mean we don't ever ask people for their opinions or like chat to people about it that we trust or whatever it is, but we don't outsource that decision making and think that other people can be trusted with that decision more than we can, right? So just noticing that. Like I said, if you're making people angry or like getting in trouble, people pleasing, wanting to be like the favorite. Sometimes we have that as clinicians as well. Like, we want to be like the patient's favorite or the boss's favorite, having like emotional explosions, like almost like emotional tantrums in some sense, feeling like you can't say no, feeling like you're never competent, or like I said, you don't feel mature. You don't feel like you can actually do the things that you want to do because you're so paralyzed by the fear of what other people are going to think. All of these can be signs that you are in particular situations and in particular times that you are what they call emotionally regressing. So this is just an interesting kind of concept to think about. The book that I read about this in, she's a psychologist called Britt Frank, and a really cool book. It's called The Science of Stuck. Really awesome book as well. I also recommend this for people with anxiety. She talks a lot about anxiety, and really cool book. Really, really helpful. But essentially, she was saying that, like, until you feel safe in your own body and mind. So essentially, like the idea of I am home to myself. Until you feel like that, you're always going to look for that outside of yourself. You're always going to look for someone else to validate your decision, right? You're always going to look at someone else to tell you what to do. You're always going to look at someone else to like figure something out for you, right? You're always going to look for someone else to give you the kind of emotional comfort and compassion that you are looking for. So it's just this interesting idea of essentially creating that environment within ourselves and being a home to ourselves, trusting ourselves, being confident within ourselves, having a strong sense of self. That's essentially the opposite of that emotional regression. So one of the things that she suggests that you think of is, if I was feeling emotionally mature and like grown up, what would I do? Like in the same exact situation, if I wasn't feeling like emotionally younger than I actually am, if I was feeling strong, I was feeling old, but like emotionally older, adult-like, what would I actually do? What would my decision be? And it can just be an interesting, line of thought, because we can discover a lot of like underlying resistance there. So yeah, those are the two kind of aspects of it. I'd love to know what you kind of uncovered just looking at the underlying thoughts and beliefs and assumptions about it, and what benefits there actually are to you staying stuck, what you're scared of feeling, what you're scared of happening. And we talked about resilience last week, and essentially the summary of it is like, resilience comes from showing your brain that you can do hard things and you're going to be okay. So think of decision making through that same lens, right? I'm going to make a choice and I'm going to back myself all the way. If this quote unquote fails, I will have learned from it, I will have grown from it, and I will have new information that I can use to take the next step. It doesn't have to mean anything about me as a person. It doesn't have to mean anything about my future success, my abilities. So just looking at decision-making also through the lens of resilience. So I hope you found that helpful, and I'd love to know if that has helped with any decision that you're trying to make. Let me know in the comments, and I always go back and kind of comment on any comments that you have. So feel free to do that if there's questions or things you're unsure about, or things that came up as you were exploring this. I'd love to know. Awesome. So as I say, this is one of the things that I help clinicians with, because decision making is huge in our career, right? Health as well, in our relationships, in our emotional health. Everything is affected by and can affect our ability to make decisions. And when we are navigating our career journey, and when we're deciding on what is the next step, what is my career journey going to look like, decision making is such a huge part of that. So feel free to reach out to me. We can set up a call if you'd like to talk more about working together. If decision making is something that you really struggle with, we can chat about that. Awesome. Have a great Wednesday, and I will chat to you guys soon. Bye.